Hey guys, it's Chris and Kent back for episode number 23 of Kenter at Your Own Risk. We're in July of 2021. This is kind of like our June to July episode. How you doing, Kent?
I'm doing good, and I'm really just going to start right off topic. When you said, "Hey, we're back," I thought of this past Saturday. I went to Saratoga because I got a new Xbox Series X,
Oh, nice.
and on Route 29 went past this one place. I don't know what the fuck it was, and they had like this digital sign, and I saw Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block, and NSYNC, and apparently they're doing like a boy band brunch. And when you said back, I was thinking everybody Backstreet's back. Anyways, Saratoga boy band brunch.
That is pretty fucking awesome. You know, if I was up there, I would actually go to see it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there are certain songs that each of those groups did that are fucking guilty pleasures. I don't know about you. Like, I can't speak for up there, but it feels to me like down here we're relatively getting back to normal, I want to say.
Yeah, I think there's really not a whole lot. It feels pretty goddamn normal at this point in time. I mean, as normal as it's going to be for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I still see people out in masks, like, because we have a huge, I don't know about up there, but we have a huge, like, anti-vaxxing population down here. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the new normal forever or not, but, I mean, it feels much closer to, like, 2019 than 2020.
Yeah, man. Like in 5 years, we're gonna look back and like think like how weird that like just 2020 in and of itself just fucking was.
I have a feeling in 5 years we're going to be like, oh, man, if only COVID-27 was, like, as bad as, like, was as good as COVID-2019 was. This is so much worse.
Yeah, I can't wait for the influx of terribly made films about it.
Yeah.
And the love stories that will come from it.
So outside of that, I've been working a lot lately. Because we weren't going to be traveling much, because we still didn't know what the rest of the year was going to look like, from like a health and standout and all that stuff. Like I know you still need to take tests before you can take plane rides and shit. I sold back a bunch of my vacation, paid off like a credit card, and I bought myself a brand new laptop that like completely puts my desktop to shame. So I've been like ignoring a lot of like my secondary stuff, like my blog, and just like playing video games straight up. So.
Dude, nothing wrong with that because, I mean, like I said, I got a new Xbox, man. Like it was like perfect timing for me because my Xbox One, like S, so
Yeah.
the second one, it just was starting to really perform slowly with a lot of newer games that were like still compatible but not optimized type thing.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I got very lucky, so I'm happy with that. I'm happy you got a new laptop. Everything's good. Except for the heat. I'm sick of the heat already.
I don't blame you. I hate when I go to work and I start off like the beginning of the night with like all the physical activity I'll be doing for the night, and I'm sweating, and then I just sit there for the next 10, 11 hours and just marinate. But I would much rather be sweaty and hot than fucking cold. I can't stand the cold. I can't deal with it anymore.
I'm a fat fuck, dude. I love the cold. Yeah, I don't know. Just used to it.
It gets down to like 50 here, and I've got like sweater, fucking pants, long sleeve shirt on underneath, wearing a jacket at work. So yeah, I can't fucking stand it. Anyways.
Yeah.
So this month we decided to do our top 5 remakes. I think we might have said remakes, reboots, but I think looking through it, we didn't see a lot of reboots either way. So we were going to do the top 5 remakes, top 5 best remakes, top 5 worst remakes, and then we'll take a little break and do 5 movies that we think are due for a remake.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't mind touching on the reboots. It's just a really short conversation since I think we did kind of bring it up in the last podcast. I promise you, it really is kind of a very short list.
It's sometimes it's hard to see what's supposed to be a reboot and a sequel.
So, how about we actually. All right, so this is what my understanding was because I made sure like kind of look this up today. Because I was like, what's this qualify for versus this? And basically, what I got was reboot is when you take it. Basically, has to involve a franchise. If it doesn't have a franchise, it's a remake. If it involves a franchise, it's a reboot. That was the simplistic way of describing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that being easily defined definition. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that, though.
I'm not saying I agree with it.
Yeah.
It was just the easiest way for me to do my goddamn list.
Okay.
So, those were the rules I followed. You may have followed different rules, and that's fine. That's the only way I could make my list work.
That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So we're going to just start it off with top 5. Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
You go ahead, because you know already, but I did keep it a lot smaller than past few podcasts.
I this month I was like, I am going to do what we said we were going to do, and I only picked 5. I didn't do like reasonable decisions. I was like, go with it. I think that the top 2 are just fucking real easy, and there's a whole bunch that could vie for 3, 4, 5. All right.
Right.
So
All right.
my number 5 for the best horror movie remakes, I picked Fright Night, and I did that because I really enjoyed. Like I like the 1980s Fright Night too. Like, don't get me wrong, that one still, it's not like some of these movies we'll be making a list where like the remake is an obvious improvement over a shitty movie in the first place, or vice versa, the remake is a shitty version of a better previous movie. But like, I just think they really captured a cool tone in it, like the dying of the suburb, and add in the and the dissolution of the nuclear family, and then add a vampire in on top of that. And it wasn't like necessarily super gory like 30 Days of Night, but it wasn't, like Twilight vampires or, like Blade kind of vampires where they're glamorized going in on top of it. I love Anton Yelchin. I love David Tennant, and I was really impressed with Colin Farrell. Because, he came out really strong out of the gate with a whole bunch of performances early on, and then, like, he hit a bunch of shit in the middle of his career where I was like, I'm not really impressed. But I think he's nailed it, kind of not playing the pretty boy anymore. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but...
Ever since... I didn't really like Colin Farrell for a while, but Seven Psychopaths came along and just changed everything for me. So
yeah.
I'm on board with him, and it was, I was reading up today, and I came across Fright Night, and I was like, oh shit, Anton Yelchin. Like, I really liked him.
I liked almost every single thing he did, even when the movie wasn't great. Like, I liked the book of, what the hell was the Dean Koontz one that he did? Where he could see the dead people, and he would help the cops solve crimes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll look it up in just a second. But yeah, like, even when it wasn't like a great movie, he had good performances in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really liked him. I liked him in Green Room. That's a movie we never really talk about it, but I liked him in that. I actually really liked him in a movie called Hearts in Atlantis, which is based on a Stephen King
Hmm.
story with Anthony Hopkins in it. Really, yeah, like, I don't know. I've always just kind of enjoyed him, even though, I don't know, I feel like he was a little bit under the radar in some ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, oh, Odd Thomas was the one I was trying to think of. Yeah, he's. I mean, I don't even know if he's under the radar. I just think he doesn't get enough recognition, and unfortunately, he won't anymore. But like you talk to everybody who worked with him, and they're like, yeah, this guy was really talented. He was a nice guy. Genuinely nice person. So
I will say I did not care for Odd Thomas, in which he was the star as Odd Thomas.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like I liked him in that. I just didn't think it was a very good movie.
Yeah, I did really like, and I don't know, a little bit of shame is washing over me at the moment, but Dying of the Light, because Nick Cage was doing Nick Cage shit, and yeah, good time.
Yep. All right, moving on. My number four. I could see this being debatable for some people, but Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like, I really there's like a couple people that stand out as being anachronisms in it, mainly Keanu as Jonathan Harker, but like Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins, Lucy Frost. Like there was just like a lot of really good things to like. Fucking Francis Ford Coppola went over the top in a bunch of like the early stuff, like the scene where he has Gary Oldman dressed up in like the red armor and he's like cursing God out after his wife dies. I liked like a lot of the makeup choices between like old Dracula, the Wolfman, the Bat kind of thing. And overall, it's a pretty accurate to book version of Dracula. I mean, there'll be people who will argue like Frank Langella, the 1979 was better. People will argue about Christopher Lee, but as iconic as like Bela Lugosi's performance is, I just don't think it's like a great horror movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, here's I'm gonna make 2 points. One, just for comedy's sake, I do have a list called Shitty Ones, and that movie is on that list because I was not a fan of that movie. And I just thought it was funny that the name of that list was Shitty Ones. Secondly, I'm now just realizing, could Blackula have counted as a remake of Dracula?
I
Like, I'm torn on that one.
I don't think so, just because like
It doesn't really follow the story.
yeah, like a remake
Yeah.
would, he would be Count Dracula and he would just be black, but he's an actual different person.
All right. Well, I left Blackula off my list anyways, but now I was like, damn it. Maybe I missed an opportunity, but no, I feel okay that I didn't. Okay.
All right, my number three, I have The Crazies. I really, really like the remake of that. I don't know if you're going to necessarily call it a zombie movie, but I think it's one of my top non-zombie movies, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's an outbreak. I don't even want to say outbreak, but yeah, it's that type of movie
Yeah.
where people are
I just
infected in some way.
I like the performances. I like the set pieces. It's kind of nihilistic at the end. It gives you that false hope right before you see the credits start rolling. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I could. I mean, I could gush more, but I think we've talked about it to death a couple times already. So
Have you ever seen the original to it?
I have, but to tell you the truth, I don't remember it.
I own it, and I still don't think I've watched. I think I started watching it, but I don't think I've seen it all. That was actually kind of a dilemma I had for a lot of these things on my list was that I wasn't sure how many of the originals I had seen. Not that it mattered too much, but it's nice to have seen the original to kind of compare and contrast. And once again, not to gush, but god damn it, "Bring Me Sunshine" by Willie Nelson in the ending credits is just absolutely delightful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really liked it. It was good.
I also have a feeling that our top three are going to be all the same.
Probably. All right, my number two's got to go to The Fly.
I'm even more confident now.
It's just like it's creepy, it's gross, it's scary, and that's, I mean, they're sexy. It's sexy too. I mean, it's weird that you can have a movie about a guy turning into a fly where it's both sexy and like completely disgusting at different points. But I mean, if you just like, this is one where like you look at the 1950s version and you're just like, I get what they were trying to do and the budget that they had to do it with, but it's not scary. It's just, it's not. That special effects held it back.
It's not Cronenberg, man. Like, fucking Cronenberg, got his hands on this and just did what Cronenberg does.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's an absolutely wonderful. It's actually one of my favorite horror films that I do not own in any capacity whatsoever.
And at the top, I say my number one for me. Can't.
Is it? I ain't going with them. I ain't going with Windows.
What was it?
The line from The Thing. I ain't going with them. I ain't going with Windows.
Yep, it's The Thing. I don't. It's like such a good horror movie. It's such a good Carpenter movie. And then you look at the original and you're like, how the fuck did he get like the body horror out of like a Frankenstein type looking creature? It's still held up today as like a master of special effects, practical effects, and just like creature design. So I don't know what more needs to be said. Like, I love Kurt Russell. I love Keith David. The cast is great.
Wilford Brimley, man.
I mean, and then it leaves you uncertain at the end of like what's actually going on. Although everybody's dying, but you're like, who's infected, who's not infected. The game actually answered that, so that was cool.
Wait, did the game answer that it was in fact Keith David that was infected at the end?
It did, because you find what's his face's body by himself at the Frozen.
Because there's just a little slight clue in the actual film, but it's so subtle that I didn't fucking pick up on it. I had to read about it. You have to watch his breath. Watch Keith David's breath, and there you go. And unfortunately, they made that prequel that was... God, I did not like that prequel that they made.
Yeah, I think that would have been an attempt to not necessarily be a reboot, but to reboot this series.
Had it been successful, I could have seen them trying to remake The Thing, which they called it The Thing, which just terrible. Like, add a little something at the end of the title to differentiate, please. It
probably would have been better if you had like not said that it was a Thing prequel and then let people find out. Then it might have succeeded, but sometimes you set expectations too high.
Yeah, in that case, it was way too high for me. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go into your top five, or do you want me to go into my minus five?
I'll go into my top stuff.
I mean, I think it's going to be relatively quick, considering.
Well, I'm going to do the quick honor mention and
quick.
No, my honor mention is not too bad. We Are What We Are. I don't really have much to say about it. Prom Night was enjoyably stupid, but the first one was also enjoyably stupid, so whatever. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I remember really liking it, but I didn't have enough to say to actually have it higher. Same goes for Cape Fear. I saw that when it first kind of came out, and I haven't watched it since. I remember it being cool. Like, I remember De Niro being awesome, but I just can't add to it. So there's that little layer. Then I have a layer of 5 others. Um, Sorority Row. God damn it, I can't say that. Sorority Row. I think it was based off like a 80s, like early 80s film. And then when they redid it, they had Carrie Fisher as like the house mom for the sorority. I don't know if you're into like those types of 80s movies, it was actually a really good remake. Uh, then I had a very unpopular choice. Guilty pleasure, House of Wax, because it's not like the original House of Wax was that good either. But
I'm gonna lie, like that didn't hit any of my lists because I never watched it. I've never watched the remake, so.
dude, at the end it gets so dumb. I don't even want to ruin it for you, but yeah, whatever. 13 Ghosts. Actually, 13 Ghosts was on the precipice. I didn't get it in, but I really was a big fan of it. Much better than the original. The original is really cheesy.
For that one, I've never seen the original, so. But I do like 13 Ghosts. It is a guilty pleasure, kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of like what this whole tier is for me. Except for Let Me In. Let Me In was a legitimately good film. I just don't remember enough to offer much commentary about it, so once again, I'm kind of just scooting on by. And the final one in this tier is The Blob. And I loved the original The Blob, but they turned it into a horror film in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, so that's that. So my top 5. We already know my top 3 because they're the exact same as you. And that's why I didn't feel too bad about going into my other stuff. So number 5 I had was Maniac with Elijah Wood.
Okay.
I have not seen the original Maniac, so I can't compare and contrast, and that's a big regret of mine. But I really, up to that point, I had never seen Elijah Wood do horror, so it just worked for me. I liked how you didn't see him; you just saw like reflections. His performance was quite good, I thought. Overall, I just felt entertained.
Yeah, I really think he's talented in that. I mean, I've never seen Maniac, either one, but I know people. It's on a list of like a lot of good remakes. But just look how creepy he was as fucking Kevin in Sin City, without even saying a word. I mean,
yeah, I would agree with that. Sin City, that's a good one. Yeah, Ed, I don't really have much else to add. My number 4, I don't know. I don't want to say it's controversial because probably the original is arguably better than the remake, but I still love both for their own reasons. House on Haunted Hill.
yeah, I that's another guilty pleasure one for me.
Absolutely. It's the best thing I've ever seen Chris Kattan do, aside from possibly Night at the Roxbury, and that movie's just stupid as shit, but I can't help it. And House on Haunted Hill, man, they did a lot of cool things before it was trendy to do those cool things. And even though it was like kind of stupid and silly, like what was it, Jeffrey Combs? I can't think of the main girl that was also in like X-Men. What's her name?
House on Haunted Hill?
Yeah. Famke Janssen.
Yeah.
And was it Mekhi Phifer maybe? I don't remember. Tay Diggs, god damn it. Either way, like it was just fun. I loved the opening, like with the elevator stunt. Everything about it was just kind of a fun movie. And if you've seen the newer one and haven't seen the original, it's probably free on like every kind of free streaming thing, and I highly recommend it. It still like holds up fairly well today.
Yeah. It's. I love that the line at the end too. I'm not even. I'm adopted.
Yes. I, I mean, I always like to tell the story that the original House on Haunted Hill both made Eric and I jump like little bitches when we first saw it. There's that one scene. So, fond memory. And that's it. That's my. See, I kept it short. I kept it reasonable.
I'm so proud of you right now. It's not even funny.
Thank you.
All right. So your actual list is done. Let's get into the bottom fives. I have a feeling our number one is going to match up, but I'm not sure where the rest of it's going to go around. All right. So starting at the top five worst horror movie remakes, I have The Wolfman, the Benicio del Toro one, and it's not that it's a badly made movie. Like, the cinematography is excellent. The special effects are actually pretty good. I just think it's a bad movie. Like, the plot doesn't make sense. And I was hoping for more because I really enjoy werewolf movies and I don't see a lot of good ones come out. Nowhere near the same level of, like, vampire movies or zombie movies or ghost movies that we kind of get. I don't know if you have anything to add to that one or not.
That was definitely it's on my list. It's not like in my top five, but it was on my list for pretty much all the reasons that it was just hugely disappointing given Hopkins and
Oh yeah, and Del Toro. I mean, who's the sister? Was it Emily Blunt? I mean, whoever, like, the cast was great, and it was just meh.
Disappointing, man.
Yeah.
Just so fucking and you know, I had never seen the original Wolfman, so you know, years later, I went and I watched all the Universal, well, most of them, and that was such a superior movie to this one, which, you know, had better talent, better everything, and it just wasn't as good.
I honestly think, and this could just be because I'm a dad now, but I think it's a situation where a child has to kill their parent is much less emotionally resonating than a situation where a parent has to kill their child. I don't
So
know.
the ending to The Mist?
Oh, you dude.
Yeah.
If we were, yeah. And not to mention just because of, like, the book, it just ends and the story. It just ends and it's all up in the air, but they, like, were definitive with that movie ending, and then, you know, like, the ending after what happens in that car makes that, like, possibly one of the blackest movies I have ever seen in my entire life.
Not many bigger gut punches than that.
Dude, yeah. Okay, so my number 4 for me, and it's really easy because I can make a comparison to something that just came out recently. I love the soundtrack, but I hated Hollow Man as a remake of The Invisible Man. I fucking can't stand that movie.
Have you seen the new Invisible Man by any chance?
Yeah, I have, and I was kind of torn. I'll get into that in a second but, like, I love Kevin Bacon. I like Elizabeth Shue. I like Josh Brolin. I like a lot of the people who were in it. And like I said, I love the soundtrack. Like, that Power Struggle by Suna, that scene where he's driving around, but, like, it's a great fucking heavy metal song. But again, it's another one where, like, the trailers led you to expect it was going to be good. And instead of taking, like, any of the psychological aspects of the horror of somebody being invisible and just being able to act out all their impulses, they basically just turned it into a creature feature. Like, I don't know how the treatment that allows him to turn invisible gives him super strength, allows him to completely shrug off flame and just regenerate as he's walking down a hallway, but hey, whatever. And it was one of those ones where something that could have been good turned into like a creature feature when it should have been, in my opinion, much more of a psychological horror piece. So the newest version, I think, did a good job with the psychological aspect. Like, I think, for me at least, it went a little heavy into the feminist aspects of it. But take that out of the picture, and I think they did a good job of playing into what it would be like if somebody invisible was actually stalking you. And the guy, even though he's invisible, he's not like a superhuman. Like he gets the over on a cop in it and like shoots, or a security guard, and he shoots him, but it's not like he's throwing people through the air, lifting a dude up after he impales him through the fucking stomach with a pipe, surviving being set on fire and just walking around like nothing's happening. I don't know. I mean, like Hollow Man had some cool special effects, like the pool scene where he's swirling around in the water, the scene where he's molesting that chick's boob while she's asleep. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty hot from like a pervy, rapey kind of direction. But overall, like I'm not a really big fan of that man. It's like one of the turds, I think, in like Kevin Bacon's career.
So this is the point in time where I will admit that I've never seen the original. I've never seen the original Invisible Man. I've never seen Hollow Man, nor have I seen the newest Invisible Man. But I will offer this. I did see the film 100 Feet, which is clearly a take off of it. And Famke Janssen was great, and nobody really has ever heard of this film, and I highly recommend it.
I've never heard of it, so I will have to take a look at it. I don't know. It was like Hollow Man is just one of those ones that you can feel like the commercial aspect of it.
Like, did Kevin Bacon really need, like... Alright, so I just actually recently bought Hollow Man, probably within the past month and a half on Vudu, and I haven't watched yet, but I guess my question always has been, like, did Kevin Bacon really add anything given his character? Does he add much of anything?
No, I mean, I think it would be worse if they had a shitty actor in the role. Because, he can do smarmy, he can do smug. I mean, think of, like, The River Runs Through It. Think of, like, Vic from, what was it, Whitewater Summer?
Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so, I mean, he can be an asshole.
Right.
But like, it's not his fault, it's the script. It's the fucking script is what killed that movie.
Fair enough.
All right, to go into my number 3, and this will probably be contentious, but not necessarily from you, but I Am Legend. Like,
I can feel the contention.
They didn't understand what the fucking point of the story was. And they completely fucked it up in every single way with what they made. And the sad thing is, if they had just changed the name, it wouldn't have been a bad fucking movie. It would have been, I think, just an average movie, but it wouldn't have been bad. But, like, every decision they made about this movie just shows that they didn't understand where it came from, what its etymology was. So, in the book, instead of being the last person alive in New York City, surviving and like looking for a cure for this shit, going with mutants or whatever the hell you want to call them. I want to say, I think he's in Germany somewhere, but the things are vampires, and and he's the only human left. So I mean, like, he's their food. It's not like whatever the whole reason that the mutants hated him for whatever. So he goes around killing them during the day, and they try to get him at night, and he's shacked up and, like, forted up and everything. and then he's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. He's not the one who comes up with the cure. But somehow, they meet up with some other humans over the course of it, and somehow they get cured. And now they put him on trial because he's been basically murdering, like the rest of humanity in order to survive by himself.
Oh, that's an interesting take.
So, and then you see what they did with I Am Legend, and you're like, just like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand the decisions like they made in this movie. Like, if you go back to Charlton Heston's The Omega Man, which was a remake of that, I mean, you can see that they deviate at the end. They kill him, and the other people survive. But it's way closer to the intent of what the story was than like just completely changing the story. When you change it that much, I don't understand why you keep the same name. That's
fair enough. I didn't like Omega Man. It was actually one of the first DVDs I bought. I was like, oh, it's on sale. Like, it has Heston. What can go wrong? And I was just like, oh, well, I mean, it was like, it was humorous at times, like ridiculous in ways, but wasn't my jam.
I want to say I watched it the first time when I was like 4 or 5, and it scared the shit out of me as a little kid.
That makes sense. Honestly, like, I could see where that would freak me out as a child.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s when I first saw it. Regarding I Am Legend, it just felt like this vehicle for Will Smith to be Will Smith. It was a film to make everybody cry with the dog scene, and then they also had Bob Marley's Three Little Birds song. That's all I really can remember from the film. I still liked it, but once again, I don't have the attachment to the book. That's where you and I almost always...
it's a good story. It's not a great story.
Yeah.
But that's what I don't get. Like, if you're going to make something based on a property that already exists, why are you going to change every single fucking detail about it?
You got me.
Yeah.
I will say this: I actually own the book on Kindle, so I actually do have intentions of actually reading it someday.
All right, to go on to my number 2. I don't really need to lead. It's Poltergeist, and like, I love Sam Rockwell. I was just super disappointed. Again, it's like a script thing. The actors are doing the best that they can with what they have, which isn't much. And it's another one where it just feels like this is an attempt to cash in on using a famous name. I don't know if you have strong feelings one way or the other about it, but
here's the thing. I own it. I have not seen it because every negative review kind of is like pro Sam Rockwell, but very anti everything else about it. And, when I bought it, I was like, well, it's Sam Rockwell. How the fuck can it be bad? Like, plus I like the original Poltergeist. But everything I've read has just turned me away from it so much that I think I gave it like 10 minutes. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. And that's where I left it, to be perfectly honest.
It's not even that it's like bad. It's just you take a really good and innovative horror movie, especially with like one that's got such an iconic line that's been repeated, even up to fucking 2021 in fucking other media. And then you just kind of make a mediocre version out of it, and you take like one of the best actors I think working in the business right now, and you like give him a script that makes him turn in just like an average performance. It's another one where like my expectations were really high, and they just got shed all over.
That's really unfortunate because Sam Rockwell is fucking awesome, and he was also in Seven Psychopaths, and I'm getting my second Seven Psychopaths reference in today. Feeling good.
All right, and my number 1 for the worst remake in the history of horror movies has to go to The Wicker Man.
No, nobody listening is at all surprised.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't I don't get how you take what was done in the original and then just like do what they did. I guess at least if the one good thing that we can say out of it is holy shit, we got Nicolas Cage's performance in it.
And well, I can't even think of the lady's name. That Ellen Burstyn, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's talented. Like, there was talent in that movie, and yet it was about bees. Fuck, man.
Yeah.
Just fuck.
I will never watch that again. I mean, that's just where I sit on that shit. I will never watch it again.
I think I agree with you. I don't know if I could watch that again. I can watch damn near any Nicolas Cage film just for him being who he is, but it just didn't make sense. No. I feel like a rant coming on as to how they took something so awesome, such a really awesome idea, and like they had all the cool like singing, and like it just felt perfect in the original Wicker Man, and they just said, well, we'll take the ending and we'll rewrite everything else and just make nothing work. Okay. But we got Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hand over your money. Go fuck yourselves.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's gone down as the worst remake, not just in horror movies, but like ever.
You're probably not wrong, but I will offer a couple thoughts in my list.
Well, graciously, please start with your honorable mentions, because I know there's got to be a couple.
Oh, there's more than a couple, because there's way more bad remakes than good remakes. So, honorable mentions included like a lot of like 70s movies that got remade within the past decade or so, which, is part of our list. Amityville Horror, just
That was close for me. That was actually one I took off because I remembered how much I hated Hollow Man.
yeah. Two I put together was Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave. Neither one lived up to what the original was for whatever it's worth. They just didn't have the same vibe. Those two movies belong in the 70s, and to remake them, you're destined to fail, I feel.
Yeah.
The Haunting with fucking Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones and Owen Wilson.
Yeah, I hate that movie.
Fucking saw that in the theater. That's what
I did
angers
too.
me most.
Yes.
I did not like either remake of Carrie. I know a lot of people forget that there was like a 2002 one with was it Angela Bettis, I want to say, is Carrie, and then the more recent Chloe Moretz.
Moretz, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't. Neither of those two captured, it right from the beginning. The cool thing about the original Carrie is right from the beginning, the first 10 minutes, it hooks you, and neither remake ever hooked you. So, fuck them. I had The Wolfman. I have The Omen because I hated the remake of fucking Omen.
Yeah.
No, fuck that. The Fog. I mean, I don't even really care much for the original Fog, but whatever the fuck they did with this remake was just unwatchable to me. Like, it just... No. At least the original had Adrian Barbeau and... I don't know, I feel like somebody else made Dee Wallace or something like that. Like, it had a good cast, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like a great movie. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, there you go.
It was just... Yeah, it's a John Carpenter. But even John Carpenter phoning in is better than a lot of, like, cynical cash grabs.
It just didn't feel like a film that ever, Nobody sat there and was like, you know what I wanted? I want a remake of The Fog. Nobody was sitting there thinking that, except for whoever made it. Like,
Yeah,
I
they're
just
like,
don't.
we have the rights.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we have the rights, so all right. Um, I had, I was surprised you didn't have this because it's on a lot of lists. It didn't crack my top, but there's still a lot of disdain for Psycho. I'm not going to pile on. It is what it is.
I was torn, but there's things to like about it.
Oh, yeah, William H. Macy.
Yeah, I mean, I like Vince Vaughn.
Sure.
You know, even he went through a period of time where he was just kind of phoning it in, doing the same, playing Vince Vaughn. But seeing him over the last couple of years, like reinvent himself between like Brawl on Cell Block 99, Dragged Across Concrete, Heartbreak Ridge. I haven't seen Freaky, but I've heard a lot of good things about that. I mean, he looks funny in it, so.
Yeah, I saw Psycho in the theater, and I had never seen the original, so I didn't have anything to base it off of. So I walked out. I was like, yeah, I was entertained. Then I saw the original. I was like, okay. I get the criticism because it was just a simple shot for shot. It wasn't that it was bad. It just, I don't know what people wanted. Like, did you really want a different take on Psycho? I don't know, but if you're just going to do a shot for shot, what's the point? I guess.
Yeah.
So, and the last one I have for honorable mention would be the Americanized version of The Eye.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the Japanese version. Didn't care so much. I don't even remember who it was. It was I don't even remember who it was that was in the American version, but I think it was the same girl that was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I could be wrong. So those are honorable mentions. Now,
Okay.
I did do 7 here instead of 5. So, first one, Martyrs.
Okay.
Like, I know most people listening to this hasn't seen the original Martyrs, and a lot of them don't even know that the Americanized version of Martyrs exists. And I had forgotten that it existed, and I put it on thinking I was watching the original. I'm like, why does this feel so shitty? And then it finally like occurred to me. I'm like, oh my god, this movie is complete ass.
Yeah.
Should not have been remade. You can't go that extreme in America. Like, it's really tough to make that extreme of a film in the U.S. And they did not pull it off at all. It was fucking travesty, and it should be forgotten.
I've never seen the Americanized version, so.
This is the epitome of the quote, good, don't. So, there's that. Now, my next one is something I can only talk competently about one version of a remake, and that is Black Christmas, because I only saw the first remake. I did not see the newest remake, which has been universally shat upon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm terrified to watch it. I do want to see Carrie Elwes, but everything that I've read just screams like fucking girl power, like to some insane degree that makes me say I'm not that interested, because the best part about Black Christmas, to me, the original was, I don't know if she's the house mom or not, but, she was always drinking. She was having a good time. I love that character.
Mm-hmm.
And, they didn't do her well in the remake in 2000 whatever. So, it had to be on my list.
Yeah.
So, all right. As for actual top 5, number 5, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Okay.
I love the first, his first one, which it's not on my remake list, it's on my reboot list, so that's why I didn't get mentioned before. It just was shitty. Like, I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, and I get what he was trying to do. It's still shitty. There's nothing that can unfuck it. It was just shitty. It was an attempt, and that actually really started his slide. That was his, as far as I'm concerned, that was his first bad movie that he made, and he hasn't really. The only one he's done since then that I felt was a little bit redeemable was 3 from Hell, and that's questionable. There's a lot of people that hate that movie, but
Yeah. I don't know where I stand on him. Like, I hated House of a Thousand Corpses, but I really liked uh, Devil's Rejects a lot, and his stuff. I don't know. It's like he said. He's done some good stuff. He's done a lot of bad stuff. One of my buddies was like, I think he just does a lot of shit in order to see his wife have sex on screen. So
Yeah, it's really weird, and I'm not looking forward to the Munsters. I know he's a huge fan and all this stuff, but I don't know. I don't. I mean, he's not gonna be able to do his trademark. I don't know, white trash take on
yeah,
it. So I don't know. I'm not really looking forward to it. So, anyways, number 4, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's nobody's fault. It's just you can't replace Robert Englund, and
yeah.
I actually, if you look at the cast, it's not a bad cast.
I'll tell you what. I feel really bad for Jackie Earl Haley in that.
That killed his career. He was just starting to make a comeback, I felt, and just like that, I haven't really heard him talked about since Nightmare on Elm Street all that much, and that's a shame because he's a good actor. It's just that's a role you just I don't know. I don't think you can replicate. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. Saw that in the theater. It actually wasn't the worst movie. It really wasn't. It just, if we're just strictly talking about quality of remake, it just wasn't there. So,
Yeah.
all right. Number 3 is I think it was 2013, Evil Dead. Fuck that movie. I hate that movie.
I saw so many people putting it at like the top of best remakes, and I was like,
Thank you for agreeing. When you were doing the deep breath, I'm like, shit, is Chris going to get into an argument with me? Because I will throw down.
no argument.
It just wasn't. I'm sorry, you don't replace. It was. I have said this on the podcast, but really, it's like the only horror freaking franchise that actually had a male protagonist, and you just rip that away. Just have some basic bitch take his place and do typical horror stuff. Like, you took everything that made Evil Dead unique and kind of just said, fuck it. We'll just throw Bruce Campbell at the end for fucking 5 seconds. Yeah, fuck that. That movie pisses me off to no end.
If you want to make a disgusting, like, tumultuous movie about demonic possession, you don't need to. It's like I Am Legend. You don't need to take the premise and the name from something that came before, and then change everything that was good about it.
That's a fine example. It really is. God damn it, that movie pisses me. And I even gave that movie a second chance because I did the blog about it, so I had to watch it a second time to, it's fucking miserable the whole time. It really was one of the few, I don't want to say few movies, but, I mean, based on percentage of movies that I watch, there's only like, less than 5% that I'm truly miserable during. That was one of them, so.
One of my other buddies, he's like, the only good thing about that was that they came up with a reason for like why nobody would leave. Why they were there in the first. But outside of that, yeah, no, it's a shitty fucking movie.
Yeah. All right. I mean, we already know my number 1, which is your number 1, which was Wicker Man. So the last original one that I have is my number 2, and I know you haven't watched it, and I have to bitch about this, is the fucking remake of The Stand, which I don't know if it's a film, it's more a miniseries, but whatever the fuck, CBS, whoever fucked it up.
It got that bad, huh?
Dude, you know how much I love The Stand. You know how much I love the story to the point that I actually read
I do, yes.
the longest fucking books ever written. So, like, it's one of the few times I can sit here and be like, I read the book and I know this stuff. So, I can be fucking knowledgeable. And just the storytelling, the acting, the whatever the fuck they did, they just took. I mean, the 94 or 93 miniseries was not remotely close to perfect, but they tried, and a lot of it worked, aside from Molly Ringwald singing. But whatever the fuck they did in this one, no. Just no, no, no. And if anybody's listening to this and they're like, well, I still kind of want to see it, don't. Just don't.
See, I find that funny because the last time we talked about it, you were like, so obviously it didn't end in a good spot.
Dude, it's the more I've thought about it, it's like they took some really good actors, and I'm not gonna say like all the performances were bad. Hell, even James Marsden wasn't horrible, and I hate James Marsden, but he was replacing Gary Sinise. That was a downgrade. There were some certain characters though that were upgrades, like the guy who played Larry. I don't know, they changed him from a white dude to a black dude, but he was great actually. The guy that they replaced for Tom Cullen, they went from Dauber to the guy who played Piscatella in fucking Orange is the New Black. Cool. Like, that worked on some level. It really did. There were some things that worked. But when you can't get Randall fucking Flagg right, that's a big fucking issue. That's all.
What'd they do to fuck him up?
He didn't look right. He didn't really act. By the time that he got to, like, get to more mean, it felt too late. Like, when you saw Jamie Sheridan do it, I mean, who's not even, like, a really well-known actor other than being in Law and Order, but, like, they did him right. They wrote him right, so you got that good vibe from him immediately. Whoever, Alexander Skarsgård or something like that, he was not the right choice. The right choice has and always will be Matthew McConaughey for this particular generation. Without McConaughey...
Well, I mean, he played him in fucking The Dark Tower, so...
Yeah. I still haven't watched that because...
I mean, I haven't either, because I like the fucking books and I don't want it to be ruined, but...
yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, so, like, they cast him as the same character.
They did.
Just not in the same, show.
Right. Had they been willing to do that whole Dark Tower thing, right, which, I don't know, you've read it, I haven't, but from my understanding, it seems like that'd be a very difficult task to put that on film.
It would be. Just part of the reason is because it connects with, like, so much. Like, The Shining, like, Insomnia, like, stuff that, it's The Stand, I mean...
Eye of the Dragon, too, right?
All of that shit. Almost everything he wrote up to that point, in some way, connects to The Dark Tower.
I will present you with one parting thought, since you just mentioned The Shining, and we're talking about The Stand. Somebody theorized that Mother Abigail and possibly Randall Flagg both had The Shining. At least Mother Abigail, because it kind of made sense. I was like, okay, because, she was in Colorado, The Shining was in Colorado. I could kind of buy into that theory a little bit.
Well, I mean, if you go by The Shining being basically just, like, psychic abilities, potential, whatever you want to call it, then yes, Mother Abigail will definitely have it, but Randall Flagg isn't human, so I don't know if he can really have The Shining.
Yeah, I don't really necessarily know the rules for
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he ever actually came out with rules for it. I mean, that's literally just what Dick Halloran called it, which is why Danny called it that. So
right, yeah. So that's my list. Once again, I try to keep it brief.
That was probably the quickest we've ever done one of these lists.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. If you're hanging around and binging this whole episode in order, won't notice anything. But if not, come back and we'll be talking about 5 remakes that we would like to see get made. So we'll see you back here in just a bit.